In this interview, I talked to Christy. She gives us an update for March, and from the title, you probably realized that she made $6,000 or more in the month of March, which is a new record. She had a couple great milestones, and we kind of dig into all the details. Now, if you haven't heard Christy's story before, there's a few other interviews on the channel. In fact, I interviewed her for the first time when she hit $100 for the first time in January of 2019. So it's been a grind, but she's been growing and she's been doing an excellent job at adding more content, branching off into different areas. And I encourage you to check out the blog post and monthly updates that she has been publishing. So January, February, March, you're going to put links in the description here. Definitely check it out and have a look at her other interviews. And it's really interesting to see someone progress over the course of a few years and essentially create a full-time income. So I'll shut up. Let's get to the interview. Hey, Christy, how's it going today?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing awesome. And this is another one of our fun updates. We're going to mostly talk about what happened in March. So I'll just ask you, hey, how did March go?
March was awesome. Didn't expect it to be quite as awesome. So, yeah, a lot of things about March gave me quite a bit of hope that we're going in the right direction and doing the right things. So, overall, income was quite a bit up, traffic was quite a bit up, and I hit some cool milestones with like my email list and some cool traffic numbers. So, we can get into that. But big picture, March was good for us.
And for the people that are just catching up, you should listen to the other interviews that Christy and I have done. But the goal of this whole case study is to 2x your revenue. So where are we at? Like, where were you at as the baseline, and where did you want to be by the end of 2021? And then how did March fit into it? And you can, along the way, share some of the stats from this past month.
Sure. Overall, when I'm thinking about doubling my income from the site, last year in 2020, historically was hovering around 3,500 for the last couple of months of the year. So that's what I took as my average earnings monthly, which is awesome considering my very first month was like $14 or something. So already really good. But I wanted to get to 7K a month consistently. So my goal for 2021 is to see if I can do that as basically an income replacement for my other job. So, I own my own business and it just gives me some cool numbers to kind of aim for. So it's not really based on anything else but that. But I thought, let's see if we can do 7K a month and double it. So the cool thing about March was I actually got to 6K, which I didn't ever anticipate getting to this early in the year. So that was awesome. Like just to know that I was 1K off of my eventual goal for the year in March, like really made me excited.
Very good. And you mentioned a traffic milestone. What did traffic do in March?
Traffic was very kind to me. Thank you, Google. Traffic was closer to 3,800 to 4,100 per day. And that was significantly higher. I think it was like 25 or 30% higher than I'd been seeing. And it held that way for probably 3 out of 4 of the weeks of March, which really did add up. And I was able to cross 100,000 in traffic for 1 month for the first time.
Awesome. And we took a look because it was hard to tell. There wasn't a specific post that seemed to get a lot more traffic, and it was hard to trace this down. So off the recording, we looked and I started filtering and doing a few other things, and it sort of looked to us like almost all of the posts got a little bit more traffic, some of them a lot more.
Right.
There was one post that did go viral, but that, we filtered that out because that was not organic traffic. But for about 3 weeks of March, it looks like Google was giving you more traffic, ranking higher, maybe more long tail keywords, there doesn't seem to be a seasonality component. So it really just looked like Google was sending you more traffic. And then I also remember you emailed me somewhere around the 20,
Like the
the late,
24th.
yeah, yeah, and said, oh, traffic is down by a
Hmm.
pretty significant amount. And the good part is Google took some of the traffic away, and the
Right.
phrasing, we don't have to phrase it like that. The traffic went down a little bit, but it didn't
Right.
go to where it was. So now that's sort of the context. Is there anything that you think may have contributed to more traffic and better rankings, or do you just have no idea?
Yeah, so it is hard to tell, right? So when you and I looked at it, we looked at kind of the top, 20, 30 posts and just looked at date periods stacked over each other. So how was March compared to February? How was, if we don't count March, how's April doing compared to February? And it was good to see that there was no specific post that had been performing well that tanked, right? So that was my concern initially when probably March 24th or 25th, traffic dropped by like 25%, which gave me a little anxiety after it had been going so well. So I felt better after we chatted, and it was like, okay, no, this is just kind of across the board. Probably Google's doing some adjustments. That's fine. We're still up higher than we were in February, right? So I think one thing that's probably helping is I was doing a content sprint for the first 2 months of the year, and it was wrapping that up in March. And that was 50 posts that I would say were more SEO focused, kind of intentional on topics than I had been in the past. So I always use, KGR, was doing all of that. But this time I was more so clustering content around specific topics that I wanted to rank higher. And I was pulling some data from Market Muse, which we've talked about, I think, in the last update. And so this time, I think maybe the new content was just more focused, and it was focused on things where I had a better ability to rank for them already. So I think that probably helped a little bit. Plus, I mean, every month stuff just it bakes for longer. So I was happy to see that it was just kind of across the board more traffic.
All right. Anything else as far as traffic or revenue from March before we move into some of the things you've been working on?
Yeah, so just in general, my two main income streams are Amazon affiliates, which was up like higher than I had been over Christmas, which was bonkers because I thought Christmas was really good. So that was cool to see in just a regular old month, right? That it could still be at that level. So I think the way that we've been doing calls to action for Amazon is working, both in text links and some image links. That seems to be going well. And then I also have the ad income stream, which also really performed well. And I was able to hit, I think, 8 days out of March, my ad revenue was over $100 a day, which I hadn't hit before. So that was really cool.
Awesome. So people can check out your Gantt chart and some other sort of cool, planning and everything that's going on your recent update over on Niche Site Projects. So we'll link to that. But a couple areas I want to highlight and I want you to talk more about is creating your own product. And you had a little news, right? So I'll let you share that in a second. But that's one of the areas that I wanted you to expand in because, typically my advice is, hey, you want to make more money, like do more of what's working, publish more content, get more backlinks, promote more. But I know in working with you that you would do a really good job with creating your own products, and it's interesting to do that because you learn a lot of new things and you have to market in a different way. So let's talk about your products and where you are in the whole like scope of the year in context of multiple products potentially in the future.
Sure. So the first thing that I have kind of bit off on the, your own products realm is to do a few digital guides. So a few guides to different topics that make sense for my niche. And it's something that I could easily expand into probably 20 to 40 different guides, right? Doing them the same way. So there is some appeal to me in having something that is obviously unique every time and it's new content, but it's also semi-templatized in the sense that every guide can basically have the same types of content. So it does get easier and it gets faster every time. And I like that. So that's where I started. And these were going to be low cost digital products just because I'd never done it before. I didn't want to, put 3 months into something that maybe wouldn't sell. I have no idea, right? I have no background in it. So I was able to get 2 of the guides done in March and launched on, I think, like the 31st. Just got in under the wire. Wanted to get them in the update. So got those 2 live. And then I use Shopify, which I think is what you suggested also, to deliver them. So I got all that set up in March. And then I waited, right? And I waited and I was like, ooh, nothing's happening. And part of that was because, as you and I have now talked about, I need to make sure that I'm stripping things like ads and sidebar and navigation and basically any distraction off of a sales page. So that's something that's in progress at the moment. But I did manage to sell my very first guide yesterday. So I woke up to that email, which was really exciting. So I know that it at least works.
Very cool. Yeah, and the tough part once you have a product is, well, you have to sell it, which is probably more of the work than actually creating the product.
Right.
And you didn't, while you do have an email list, like you were
Mhm.
just getting the pieces in place before like a full proper launch. So it's like sort of a soft launch. It's
Mhm.
just some banner ads on your own
Mhm.
posts, which you get a lot of traffic, a lot of eyes see
Yep.
those. But as you mentioned, when I first landed on the
Mhm.
site, I was seeing videos playing, other ads. So it's sort of a competitive environment on your website.
Mhm.
And if you are trying to sell something where potentially you're going to earn a lot more than
Right.
a single ad click, it makes sense to get rid of all the ads and, get the, even though it's a low price item, if one
Yep.
person buys it, you probably make more on that page than,
Right.
the ads running for the day or whatever, or the month.
Right. So it's a mind shift for me of figuring out which pages I'm willing to give up any ad revenue and put in my own products. And I do track all of that too. So I track which pages have ads turned on and off in my master spreadsheet of content. So I can always go back to that and easily tell like what I've turned off and what I haven't. So I'll probably end up turning off ads on maybe 20 pages over the next week or so and just have the calls to actions to the guides and see what happens. And like you said, I haven't sent out emails or things like that about this specifically yet. So that'll happen in the future. And another thing that we crossed as a milestone in March was 2,000 people on the email list, which is cool. So I now do have a better audience size to actually be promoting my own stuff too.
Awesome. And we've talked, and I've mentioned it so many times in my own content. For me, the email list is the primary marketing component, and it's a really great way to, get someone hopefully less distracted than just being on a website, or,
Right.
YouTube is the worst as far as distractions. So an
Right.
email list, if they actually open your emails, you're in pretty good shape. Now, you created 2 new guides. Were there any hurdles or any issues or problems that you ran into along the way?
It went pretty smoothly, probably because I have a background in creating things like that. So I have a marketing background. And so, creating digital guides and info products is something I've been doing for a long time for other people. It does go slower when it's your own stuff, I will say. But the good thing I think for me was that I used one of my Upwork writers that I've used for a couple of years now. I have a group of probably 4 or 5 that I consistently use. And I had her do the first draft based on a template and kind of a wireframe that I'd set up. So she had a really good place to start on knowing what I wanted. And then it was pretty easy for me to just go through the draft I got back and put that into the layout and have it look good and do my tweaking there. But overall, it was pretty painless. I'm working on the third one already. So I think I can continue to kind of churn these out maybe a couple a month even if I can figure out, what the right sales approach is that works. So it's a bit of a testing process still, but overall, creating my first info products is pretty painless.
Great. And you spent a lot of time creating the template and getting everything in place. So like you said, it'll become easier and easier. And it was
Right.
pretty straightforward from the get-go, which is cool because, the other piece of the puzzle is a digital product, but more like a course, because these are essentially ebooks, right? They're downloadable
Mhm.
PDFs.
Yep.
And with a course, it can be written or it can be, video, but it's sort of a different technology. And if you're doing video, then it's a lot more complicated. There's audio and the
Mhm.
visual component plus potentially worksheets. So
Right. Mhm.
what's
And
the, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I do have, plans to do a small course. So you and I had talked about that too. And so this month is when I'll be really digging into that. And I have a team member who's going to help put together kind of the structure around the course and set up Teachable and do those kind of things. And I'm probably going to have an Upwork writer also help with the content, but I anticipate that that will all take longer than it would for me to put together guides, right? So that's something that I can kind of like do with me and one other person, and it's kind of done. And of course, is a bigger effort, but I am starting on it with the hope of having one course live by July 1st. So that's the goal.
Okay. Very good. Now, anything else with the first couple digital products or anything around selling?
I would just say there is a bit of a learning curve to doing things like Shopify and setting that stuff up for me. I have a developer that I have relied on a little bit for that stuff. I know you do a lot of that yourself, and kudos to you. For me, it like robs me of the will to live. So I outsource some of that. I just don't want to deal with it. I want to say, hey, will you please set up Shopify with these 2 products? And I don't want to think about it. So for me, that's part of my expenses for the site, and I'm okay with that. And but for the most part, like Shopify seems to be working great for delivering digital products. And I also know that I can use it in the future because I have some physical products ideas. So I wanted one platform that could do both.
Perfect. And just a quick note, the Shopify technology that you're using is the Shopify buy button, which I don't know
The
anything
buy
about,
button.
but you
Mhm.
mentioned that it's a skinny down version of the normal store offering and it costs $9 a month. So pretty simple for delivery. Does it
Right.
cost any more based on the volume that you sell, or it's just a
I
flat
don't think
$9
so.
a month?
I think it's flat fee. Yep.
Okay. So that's pretty good. I mean, there's obviously other solutions out there. I think
Sure.
Gumroad would be another simple way, which I've used briefly, and it's fine. It's easy for someone to set up,
Mhm.
upload their products, and it's easy for the person to pay. So it's a easy thing to solve, and then you didn't have to worry about any Shopify setup. It seems to integrate well with WordPress or whatever else you're doing.
Yeah, it seems to work great. We were able to, use a test credit card that they provided and set that stuff up. I wouldn't say it's super intuitive, just like right out of the box. So like even me going into the dashboard and trying to find some stuff on my own, I was kind of like, oh, okay, new tool. Like it always takes a little bit of time, but overall, I was pretty pleased with it, and it seems like it'll be really just easy to keep going in the future. So I'm happy with it.
Very good. All right. Another thing you worked on was the what you're calling the knowledge directory. So can you describe what the concept is and then how the implementation went? over the last couple of months, I guess?
Sure. So this was both a lot of work and low-hanging fruit. I would say it's one of those interesting combinations. So the overall goal with it was, you know, everybody eventually wants to have their own content, right? That makes a ton of sense. You end up making a way higher margin on your own materials than you would on someone else's affiliate program. But in the meantime, right, my options were kind of, well, wait, 3 months and put together a really big course and do nothing in the meantime with it, which didn't sound great. So my alternative was, well, there's, a ton of great courses in my space already by experts in things, that I'm not an expert in. So what if I put together more of a directory listing of other people's courses and promote those as long as we can become affiliates in all of their programs? Because so many of the course websites now have just affiliate stuff built in, right? Like Teachable, I'm sure Kajabi does too. Udemy is a huge course website and they have affiliates. I mean, it's just most of them, unless you're using something pretty obscure, has an
Yeah.
affiliate component, which is cool. And the rates for most of, if you're selling someone else's courses is like 20 to 50% versus, whatever I'm making on ads or Amazon, right? Which continually changes their rates. So that seemed like a pretty great idea, right? So I have the traffic. If I can figure out how to promote other people's quality content, it's good for them. It sends them more business, and it's great for my audience because I can give them more resources and more tools without having to wait to build my own. So that was my focus for like January through March, and ended up being able to launch it in March with, I think, 32 courses. And that was, a fair amount of work of writing all the descriptions, getting into all the affiliate programs, doing all the outreach to those creators. But overall, I was like really pleased that it went so smoothly and that people were so receptive to it. I love how it looks. We used a plugin called Directorist, which we had to modify a little bit, but it was still pretty good. So the library is searchable and you can filter and all of that. So that's really cool. The slightly annoying piece will be tracking income from it because there's a bunch of different affiliate programs, right? So I'll probably just look at that number maybe once a month at the end and go through, the 10 logins that I have now and look at those. But I am really excited about the concept. I think it looks good. It functions the way that I want, and it gives me a place to load all of my own content as I get it. So like the 2 guides that I made are also in the knowledge directory. So that's really cool.
Got it. Very good. Now, do you have any plans to promote specific courses via, say, email? Again, I always lean on email, but you could feature a course and really actually try to push it. And you have
Right.
so many in the archive in the knowledge directory that you could promote like one per week.
Right. So what I'm starting with is adding to our existing email drip sequence. So when someone signs up for the list, they get, I think currently 10 or 11 emails are already built out and running. So my goal then is to add probably double that are not specifically like, here is an email selling a course. You know. So what I did basically was group together topics of courses and then build out a new email on that topic that could link to a few courses that were relevant and also some relevant blog posts. So it more so, house them in an email about a broader topic versus just being, sales emails kind of hitting these guys every week, which I don't really want to do. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is add nicely branded calls to action graphics in relevant blog posts. So for every course that I have, there's probably at least 10 blog posts that are related to that I can put calls to actions in, similar to how I did with the guides. So that's what I'm going to be working on over the next week or so. And same thing as we discussed, I need to then strip ads off of those pages and really just get people focused on the courses that are relevant to them. But it's really cool to be able to have suddenly, 30 resources to be able to promote when 2 months ago I had none. Right.
Right.
So I love that. I love the concept of it. And if I can figure out kind of the sales process and what works, it's awesome for my audience, and it helps out all these creators who've put in the time and work to make their own content. So,
And quick note, I mean, I think selling courses as an affiliate is probably the right stepping stone. Like you've done, where you're not trying to do a full, huge
mhm,
video course as your first thing.
right.
One of the other benefits, especially in the way that you've done this, where you have a lot of different courses from different
Mhm,
creators, you can over time see which ones are selling the best.
right.
And then
Exactly. Mhm,
well, you can keep promoting it, right? If it's a good partner
mhm,
and you're not interested, but you also have like really good sales data on
right.
what sells. So you can create a
Mhm,
course on that topic. And depending on what it is, I mean, people that invest in courses and training will sometimes buy multiple courses in the
right.
same topic area because they're interested in it and they want to learn more.
Mhm,
So it's
right.
not necessarily cannibalizing, but I mean, it's a
Mhm,
thing that you would have to figure out. So anyway, the point is, if people are thinking, "Hey, I'm not sure I want to do the whole course thing and create it myself. It seems overwhelming." The right stepping stone is selling things as an affiliate.
right. And I think it's cool that I can also have, 30, 40 other sales pages to look at, right? Because we have to link out to other sites to purchase. And so I'll also have data on what converts versus what doesn't, right? Because everybody does their sales pages differently. And so by the time I have my own course, I can have a good sense of, well, this course sells really well. So whatever they're doing on their sales page, I'm going to mimic that, right? Because it clearly works for my audience. And I have, no pride about knowing exactly how I want to do it, right? I want to look at what other people are doing and,
Right.
use what works. So,
Right. Now, we always like to cover any issues or things that aren't going as well. So anything that wasn't working so hot in March.
well, I think I will just mention one other thing that was kind of expense tracking, which we don't talk about a ton. But it can seem like, doing a lot of these things that show up like on the Gantt chart. I do believe in outsourcing to my team for some things. So these things do rack up a cost. And so by the end of March, I had spent almost $6,000 on the site for the year, which is significant, right? But the cool thing was that March was able to cover all of the expenses that I'd put into the site for the year in a single month, right? So it was able to pay me back for all the money I put into the knowledge directory, all the money I put into content for the guides, all the money I put into new systems like Shopify and Directorist and things like that. So that was huge because I was feeling a little bit of anxiety about just how much I was putting into things that I didn't know would work necessarily, right? Like I put a fair amount of money into the Knowledge Center and that directory and getting that set up. And being able to pay myself back for that in a single month was encouraging. So that felt good. The two things I would say that weren't working as well were my engagement level on Market Muse last month. So I found that once I was getting into other projects, it was really hard for me to get back into manually optimizing individual blog posts, right? And even though I had someone who was helping me with that in February, I was still manually going in, changing blog authors to her so she had access, she could update them, then I would change them back. Then, I mean, it was just a lot. It was kind of gross. So finally, at the end of March, I was like, well, I went through a whole month and I didn't use any of my 50 credits, which is just a waste, right? But I have someone who's already like trained and willing to do it. So I took the step of changing her like user permissions in WordPress so that she could just go and make all those changes herself. She can pick out her own blogs to do updates on. Like I'm just removing myself from that process so that I don't have more months go by when I'm not using it. So I'm going to try to do that for April, but March clearly showed me if I'm focused on bigger projects, like that just gets left to the wayside. So that was one thing. And then the other thing I would say that's fine, but not particularly impactful at this point is kind of social media in general. It's not something I love. I've outsourced Pinterest like from the start because I don't want to be doing it. I know it's important. I know it works like a search engine. Like it really helped me out with traffic initially. So I want to continue it. It's a couple thousand visits probably per month. But as far as things like Instagram and Facebook, like that stuff, those are not traffic drivers for me by any means. I feel like we need to have Instagram because we use it for a lot of the outreach for stuff. So like we need it for that. But as far as things like Facebook, I'm considering just killing the page. I just don't know that I need it if I'm not planning to, run ads or something for a future course. I guess I would need it for that. But otherwise, it's just one of those things that like doesn't take a ton of time or money, but it does take time and money. And I'm just not sure it's the best place for it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I mean, I think you're doing it right where you have a little traffic coming from
Mm-hmm.
Pinterest and it has been good in the past and the systems are dialed in. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of it may have merit in the future, or Instagram for outreach makes total
Right.
sense. But yeah, the fact is, like, what is it, like over 90% of the traffic is from
Yeah.
Google, right?
Right. So
So
it just, it feels like that's where I need to be spending my time and money. So I don't know. Gotta think about it. Facebook, I don't know. I might see you later.
yeah, right. Well, any other big highlights before we, I guess, get into the April and what's coming up in the next few weeks here?
Yeah, I would just say, March gave me quite a bit of hope that I was doing the right stuff. And the fact that we could get to 6K in a month without having even, had time for the knowledge directory to be out there and running or the guides really to be out there available, that really just gave me a bar of here's the level of traffic that I need to hit that number. And it's not that much higher than where I had been. It just made the 2 times, income goal seem potentially doable.
Good.
So it was good.
Yeah, I mean you're very very close, and with continue continuing on with like incremental gains that are not
Mhm.
huge as you have been just sort of slow and steady for
Yep.
the last couple years. I mean, I'm not sure where you'll end up at the end of the year as far as revenue, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was much higher than what we would have predicted.
I hope so. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So what do we have coming up over the next few weeks? Is there anything that you're particularly excited about? Obviously, there's a lot of moving
Sure.
pieces here.
Sure. Well, the next month or so will be kind of hot and heavy on promoting the knowledge directory, getting that dialed in, knowing what that process looks like, what kinds of calls to actions are working, getting the ads shut off on the right stuff. That's going to take some time because there are, 30 individual resources that I want to be tying into relevant blogs. So that's pretty manual. I'm the only one who knows really what all the blogs are that we've done. So that's on me. But I'm also really excited for that, right? It feels like adding really relevant, high value stuff to our existing content, which is great. So that'll be the next month. And then also kicking off this course development stuff, which is a whole new realm for me. So I get a little overwhelmed by all of it, but you've given me some good structure of like literally just tell me how many units and lessons to put in it. Like just tell me how many I need and then I'll do that. So it's like, okay, 4 units, 4 lessons each, this amount of content, like that gives me some structure to really get going. So I'm excited to do that. That'll probably be the next like 30 to 60 days. It's working on that and seeing if I can get it actually live by July.
Very exciting. Yeah, we'll have to have you back on to talk about that. I know it's a whole different skill set, and you'll
Yep.
be working with other people, right? Doing a few other
Mhm.
things. So it's pretty amazing. Like once you get a couple courses under your belt, it becomes easier. Just like anything. I mean,
Right.
it's very confusing at first, but then it's
Right.
easier as time goes on. So
That's the hope.
very good. Well, thanks a lot, Christy, and we'll get an update from you soon. We'll put links to the previous updates and interviews and all that stuff. So if you want to go back and trace the sort of growth of the site, the first interview was when you hit $100 in one
Yeah,
month, which I think you were pretty excited.
I was totally excited.
It's amazing. All right. Well, thanks, Christy.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.